Today is going to be the last lecture for Tattvartha Sutra, chapter 1. So we'll be finishing chapter 1 today. I think most of you have been attending, so except someone here. Yeah. So we'll be looking into that. So okay, so before we start today's lecture, what you're going to be starting off here with, I don't know why it's coming like this. Everyone in this class here has to reply to these questions in as few words as possible. So minimum 2 words and not more than 5 words. So we need answers to this, some of these questions here. And why is the other one not coming through? Okay. So why don't we start right from the back? If you just stand up, say what your name is, and then choose one question, and I just want you to answer in sort of minimum 2 words and not more than 5 words. So right back, just if you stand up your name and then just the answer.
Hello, how has
Okay, how has been your day today?
Good.
No, that's one word. Minimum 2 words.
Very good.
Very good, okay. Yep, Tamar.
Same question?
No, next question.
How is the Rajesh? How is the weather today? Wet. So again, one word. Cold and wet.
Okay. Yeah, we just go on. Yeah.
Okay, how do you think...
Sir, your name? Pila naam?
My name is Mithil.
Mithil, okay.
Do you think May is a good here? I think very good in terms of the leadership.
No, just 2 to 5.
Okay.
So
Very good.
Very good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think healthcare is good here? Very excellent.
Very excellent, okay. Masi, Tamar.
You'll have to read a question.
Yeah.
I just can't see from Zoom.
Let's see, Masi Mate, which one should we? How was the food in best restaurant? Tame restaurant ma gaya tha, khawanu ke hua in the best restaurant tame gaya tha?
Good.
Na, Rajeev, thoda tare.
Beti Pansab.
Beti baat sabda kehwana.
It's very beautiful and I enjoy it.
Okay. All right, fine.
Sorry, can you read the question for me?
Okay. Do you think education is good in this country? Tamar naam name?
My name is Meena Gandhi.
Yeah.
And education I find is very good here.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Anjali.
How do you find young babies?
Very cute.
Very cute. Okay.
Chintu.
What would you tell a cop if he asked you whether you've broken the speed limit?
Not yet.
Okay, fair enough. What will a teacher say to a noisy class?
Bansri,
What will a teacher say to a noisy class?
be quiet.
Be quiet, okay. Food applicators? Do you think Brexit is good?
That depends.
That depends. Okay. No. I'm sorry.
Madhu.
Madhu. Okay.
Hi, Shailene.
Have you ever been to a public toilet, and if so, how were they?
Yes, and quite dirty.
Quite dirty. Okay. Fair enough. Do you think demonetization was a good idea?
Harsh. Eventually, it will be.
Eventually, okay. Is Karilunu Shah your favorite vegetable? It's okay. Okay. I think there's. How do you feel if none of your friends came to your assistance? If there's any problem, if none of your friends came to your assistance?
I think I would feel
No. 2 to 5.
Oh, sorry. It won't be a problem.
It wouldn't be a problem. Okay, that's fine. How was the last Hindi movie you watched?
Excellent. Enjoyed.
Okay. How do you find dark winter days?
Extremely depressive.
Extremely depressing. Okay. How is your boss or partner?
They're both one. So my boss is very good. He's helping me a lot.
Yeah, 2 to 5.
Super, yeah. It's very good helping.
Very good helping. Okay. I think we've covered everyone, right? Nilesh, come here. I think. Do you enjoy coming to SCVP Adults class?
I do, that's why I'm here today.
Too many words.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Okay. Okay. The purpose of these questions here is essentially no one answered what I was looking for. Do you actually find that in our conversations, which we do, we tend to use the word absolutely very frequently? So for most of these answers, how has been your day? Absolutely brilliant. How do you find public toilets? Absolutely filthy. So I was trying to see if anyone came up with a word, especially when you have to use very few words, we tend to use the word absolutely very, very frequently. And so that's going to be setting the base for today's talk. That what does absolutely mean? We tend to use the word absolutely. And what does absolutely mean in terms of the definition? Absolute means without exception, completely, wholly, or entirely. So essentially what absolutely means, that the statement which you are saying, it's absolutely brilliant, absolutely like it. That means that in the past, present, or in the future, that is the best. That absolute means set in stone, cannot change. It was absolutely the best movie I watched, which means that in the future, there's going to be no other better movie because you absolutely enjoyed that movie. So we tend to use that word very frequently. In fact, what happens is that in Google Books, they charted how many times is the word absolutely used. In terms of percentage-wise, it's very small, but as you can see that in the 1880s, 1900s, the word absolutely was actually quite used in books frequently, and then it's been gradually declining. In my personal opinion, maybe in the books it's not written as frequently, but in spoken, we tend to use the word absolutely too frequently. So, if you now think of absolutely, so let's look at the next stage. So for most, I think it might be easier this way. For most things, we can say really absolutely, that is without exception. How many things can you really say that it's absolute, like apdu ghar che, apdu car che? Can you really say that this is absolute? We might change houses, we might change cars. So how many things in our day-to-day experience can you really say that something is really absolute? Can you really think of anything which is absolute? I mean, we would actually struggle. I mean, the question is that there is hardly anything you can come up with, even if, for example, someone says, "Ki apna atma," ki atma is pure. Now, can you really say that's absolutely true? One cannot even say that atma is absolutely true because atma is impure. We are in the process of purification, and if once when you purify our atma and all the karmas go away, then when it goes into Sikshila, then it's going to be absolutely pure. But even if you did ask Bhagwan Mahavir or Rishabdev, is Atma absolutely pure? Yes, from the time they are in Sikshila, it's always going to be pure, but it was never pure. They had to purify it themselves. So even a concept like Atma pure che cannot be an absolute truth. It was impure, it got purified, and obviously from now onwards to all eternity, to infinity, it's going to be pure. So for most things in statements which we say absolute just doesn't hold ground. Even if you look at Einstein did not come up with a theory of absolutivity, he came up with a theory of relativity. So even in science, you do not have absolute. It's relative truths, not absolute truths. Whatever gravity, it's as long as it's in a particular domain, particular confinement. If you went into Mars or Moon, the laws of physics and everything might be quite different. Even recently, just yesterday, the day before yesterday, in the BBC, there's a news that we consider the speed of light to be a constant. And now they are saying that the speed of light could be a variable. Because that's the whole of physics is based on the concept that the speed of light is a constant. And now they are saying at the time of the Big Bang, for all the elements to be dispersed throughout the universe, the speed of light has to be a variable entity. So that's kind of quite interesting to see that even in science, things becoming absolute is really not there. So Atma is conscious. I think we touched on this. Atma is consciousness. In my view, the only thing which can be absolute, and I think is Okay, if you say, what is the property of Atma? And you can say, the property of Atma is consciousness. Now that, in my view, is an absolute truth. In the past, the property of Atma, how do you distinguish Atma between matter, table shade? So matter does not have consciousness and soul has got consciousness. So the property of a soul which has consciousness has to be an absolute truth. It was always there in the past. Right now, soul is conscious, that's true, and it's always going to be in the future. Even as long as you game the gatis ma move kare, even if you go to Sikshila, so that statement has to be an absolute true statement. That a soul has got consciousness and matter, Pudgal, does not have consciousness. So that has to be an absolute truth. So that's one factor which came into my mind, which can be an absolute statement. There can be no changes. This is kind of a picture, I think, which is, I don't know, why is it? Maybe it's just this. I mean, it was quite a funny picture. If everything is relative, then I have a lot of relatives. So the premise is that we are living in a world which is kind of relative, not absolute. Now, let's look at where, in a way, we are discussing Tattvartha Sutra, and let's see where it's taking us. In the olden days, Middle Ages, you would have a king of a particular faith. And at that time, they were quite open and broad-minded. And what they would do for philosophical discussions or to discuss some spiritual ideas, they would gather people of a lot of various faiths. Even look at Akbar. He would have a lot of different people of different faiths, and what they would tend to do is discuss certain ideas. Now, what is at stake between all these people here is not only their personal reputation, but if they got defeated in a debate or in one of the discussions, then the king might favor some of the other religious organizations. So a lot was at stake at you. If he felt that, yes, the Hindus have got a very strong argument, I really believe their point of view, then he might start converting or even favor that kind of religion at the expense of others. So all these people here, which was not only their personal reputation at stake, but also they're upholding the religious on their shoulders. So which meant that whatever statement that they made, and if that was refuted, then they actually were made to be wrong. So they had to be very careful that through logic or through any other discussions or arguments, that whatever statement they made, they could not be proved wrong. Now this is actually my Sapta Bhangi. It follows on from knowledge. Whatever statement I make, it should not be refuted, cannot be disputed, and this has led to a whole these different philosophies. Let's look at even what's written in the medieval philosophy, in the Middle Ages. Even in the Western countries, addressing the theological led to a lot of logic. Logic really developed in the Middle Ages. There are a lot of philosophers at that stage. They resorted to logic and to prove certain ideas or doctrines. So logic was not only in the East, but even the West was very, very important. So that now leads us to the Sutra number 33 of Tattvartha Sutra. So Naigam, Sangraha, Dravya, so Naigam, Sangraha, Vyavahar, Vyavahar, Rjusutra, so that's Vyavahar, Rjusutra, then Sutra, Sabda, Sambirudha, the Evambhuta, and then Naya. So this is like saying, so 7 different words here. Naigam, Sangraha, Vyavahar, Rjusutra, Sabda, Sambirudha, Evambhuta, and Naya. So what is this trying to say, this sutra? It's saying that Naya, and we'll discuss what Naya is. Naya comprises of these 7 entities here. But let's take a background as to, before we come to Naya, where does Naya fit into all this? Lord Mahavir made abundant use of Anekant to explain important principles of Jain philosophy, Jain principles. Now, Anekant, in many people, I think, in our common understanding, means that everyone's view is right. So if there was a discussion here, you made certain discussions, so everyone's point of view should be right. We should consider that. I actually beg to differ. In my view, what I understand to be Anekantvad is that there is a certain element of fact or truth or philosophy. Now, so that can be true or wrong. So that can be that's a fact. So let's just take an example. is war good or bad? So if I ask that question to you, some people might say war is good and some people might say war is bad. Now, my perspective, let's imagine, like, for example, even when UK went into war with Iraq and America went to war with Iraq, there was a lot of debates happening. So my principle or my viewpoint would be war is fundamentally bad because loss of life. According to the Jain philosophy, there is loss of life, so war is bad. However, for practical reasons, for other reasons, to protect your country, to protect your family, or to protect your philosophy, religion, you might have to resort to war. So from practical point of view, you might say that yes, war is inevitable. There is no other option left, but I have to go to war. But one cannot justify saying war is good. War will not only decimate your soldiers, but it will also decimate other people's soldiers. So it's not only, it's bad for you and it's bad for the opposing party also. So war is going to be bad, period. So that is a statement. War has loss of life, war is not good. But for practical reasons, then you can have different points of view. Yes, you know, I've tried all kinds of diplomacy and doesn't work, therefore we have to go to war. If it's your family, if it's your religion, then you might take certain viewpoints, and those viewpoints then become important, and that's where Tattvartha comes in. Yes, we have considered everything, and therefore, but you cannot make wrong right, or same way you cannot make right wrong. So Tattvartha does really not mean. Otherwise, how can you imagine that if you're a prime minister, how can you make decisions in life? You get everyone here, your committee members here, your cabinet ministers, and then you say, let's debate, and people say, how can you just start making this? If everyone's viewpoint is right, how can you actually just make progress? So Tattvartha, in my view, really, because I think that's a very common way which when we say of a Jain principle, Tattvartha, it's commonly understood to be everyone's viewpoint is right, we should be tolerant to everyone's viewpoints. Yes, we are tolerant, but you cannot change. If someone come and told me that, oh yeah, Atma, there's no consciousness in Atma. Now, if someone even gave a logical explanation to me, but I'm not going to understand because I know that certain facts are true and that's what it is. So that's Tattvartha. So for example, let's look in a nutshell. Many sets of mutually opposing attributes exist in every substance at all times. However, at any given point of time, only one attribute can be expressed, and the remaining attributes become secondary and thus are not expressed. And this is the basis of Tattvartha. So let's just say if you have a light switch, it's on or off. Exactly two opposite conditions. If it's off, then I know the light is not on. Black and white. If this is black, I know it's not white. You cannot have black and white together. See, if it's black and white. So the concept, and if you think logically, how can I have two exactly opposite attributes in one entity? Exactly in one entity. So for example, father and son. I'm the son of someone, but yet I'm the father of someone. But father and son are exactly two opposite entities. I mean, and if you just said I'm a father and a son, how can that be possible? But yes, I'm a father from one perspective, and I'm a son from a different perspective, or son of someone. So two mutually opposite attributes existing in the same person, myself, but at one point, if I'm not talking to my son, then I say like, I'm your father. So now that's actually now becoming to the forefront. But this does not deny the fact that I am actually the son of my father. So it really depends on at what angle you're looking at. So the truth is there, both father and son, the truth is there at the same time, but it now depends on which perspective is the forefront. It's like a seesaw. Now this is in the forefront and the other one is in the background. And if the seesaw goes this way, then this is in the top and this is in the background. So this is called Naya. So Naya is a standpoint, is a viewpoint. So if I'm going to make any statement, it is from a particular viewpoint. And this becomes the basis of logic. Because if I'm going to be making any statements, and if I don't want to be refuted by someone, and if you qualify your statement, yes, I'm telling you this statement from this and this angle viewpoint, then it's fine. It's like, Atena andharu che. Yeah, but it's actually daylight on the other part of the earth. But if I say, like, I'm talking from right now, from the perspective of where I am right now in England, it is dark. Yes, that is fine. But you can't say that earth is dark. No, earth is not dark. It's dark on this side of the world, there is light on the other side of the world. But you cannot make an absolute statement that it is the earth is in darkness. That statement cannot be true. So then that becomes a viewpoint or a standpoint. That from a particular perspective, this is what I'm talking about. So Naya requires us to accept one attribute at a time and express it relative to others. So all the other statements are not facts. So father and son, you cannot say that someone cannot come to me and saying, no, father and son are two exact opposite properties, and you as an entity cannot be father or son. Either you are either a father or you are a son, but you cannot be both. But he says, no, logic says I can be both. I can be a father and I can be a son. So two opposite properties, mutually opposing attributes, can exist in the substance at the same time. That's quite important to understand Nai. Two opposite properties. And otherwise, logically you think light is switched off, then how can it be on? You cannot have on and off at the same time. But here we can see that opposite attributes can exist. It is a contemplation analysis. So for example, if someone asked you what color is banana, and if you make a statement, bananas are always yellow. So you cannot say that's it. So what is Nai? When banana is ripe, it's yellow, but if it's unripe, it's green. So if you were in a debate and the king says, what color is a banana, and says banana is yellow, well, someone will just bring you this and say your argument has just been disproved. So sorry, bananas are actually green. So you have been disputed. So therefore you now need Nai to say, yes, when bananas are ripe, they are yellow, but when they're unripe, they are green. And you can have two different colors on the same banana. Same banana itself, it was not a different banana. The same banana was green, and that same banana turned into yellow. So two different colors, and it did happen, but at different times and from different perspectives. And that's the whole basis of Nai, from a particular standpoint for a particular viewpoint. So let's look at Nai. Now, to give the basis of Nai has, we really need to understand from the Jain principle, and I think we've discussed this in the past when you're looking at knowledge, that Nai looks at Dravyarthik Nai and Paryarthik Nai. So what does that mean? Jainism believes that we've got substances, and we saw in the last lectures that we've got 6 substances. So a substance is something which does not change its property. So gold no melting point, boiling point, gold is gold. And then, so that's a substance. And then you can have different chains or bangles, so that becomes the modes. So, and Jeev, so Atma is consciousness, so that's actually a substance. So it's a dravya. Then the paryai, the modes, could be my different gatis. So that's that. So all substances, there's certain underlying substance which is known as a substance, and that other things are modes. So substances have common features along everything. And Nais have got different parameters. So for example, when you look at the Digambar texts, Acharya Kunkun's text, Samaisar, Niyamsar, Digambars generally, traditionally focus more on the abstract. What is the pure nature of the soul? So most of the textbooks are focusing on the Dravyarthik Nai. So they say, I don't believe in rituals. Rituals are just a means. It's just, I just want to focus what is the pure Atmanuche. So many of the texts are focusing on the Dravyarthik Nai. And whereas others are actually looking at it from a Paryarthik Nai. So it's more relative. Yes, we can use rituals to get towards the stage of the pure soul. So that's, as you can see, even philosophical digressions can across because of this two concept of Nai. So, and Nai can also be then broken down into this: Naigam, Sangraha, Vyavahar, Rjusutra, Sabda, Sambirudha, and Evambhuta. So these are the different classifications of Nai. Now, to understand this, let's take another example, just to explain this concept. That how can you have Nai being broken down into this, or Nai broken down into this? Humans can be male or female, so that's one division of humans. The same concept, humans, so that's comparing like this. So humans can be broken down into this. Now humans can also be broken down into African, Asian, American, and European. So you can see the same concept of humans can be broken down into different angles, and that's exactly where we're going to be looking at Nai. So Nai can be looked at this way, or Nai. So the scope of today's talk is going to be discussing each one of these in more detail. So that's the scope of, and then that's how chapter 1 ends of Tattvartha Sutra. Acharya Siddhasen Divakar, father of Jain Nai doctrine, Sanmati Tar Prakaran, he's written a book, and I think it's quote of there. The book is 434 pages. Can you imagine? So just to discuss this, it's about a 400 to 500 page book just to explain these concepts here. So it's a vast field. Okay, so now let's look at Naigam. What does Naigam say? So Naigam is a common view. It analyzes both the generic and the specific attributes. So when you have a substance, gold, it says, yes, I understand gold property, yellow color, boiling point, melting point, and then also look at some of its specific characteristics. So if you look at water, we know water is H2O. But so we know the boiling point of water, we know the melting point of water. But now when water is in the form of liquid, it has got slightly different properties. When water is perhaps in the form of ice, is a solid, it's got different properties. And if it's gaseous, it's got different properties. So the generic is something which is common, H2O. In no matter which phase the water is always going to be H2O. And there are certain properties associated with it no matter which phase it is in. But the other level is going to be specific attributes. So this particular viewpoint, in a way, is very broad. I'm going to be considering all of this. It recognizes an object from various angles. And what they use in the Jain text is bhed, abhed, grahi, naigam. Now it's very nice to know that if you just read this without knowing it, if you just read this bheda, grahi, naigam. So technically if you didn't know, you would just say bhed, grahi, naigam. But that's exactly what not it is. Bhed, abhed, grahi, naigam. So bhed means differences. Ama bhed suche. What's the difference between this and that? And abhed means different sunatis. What's the opposite of difference? What's common? So actually it's bhed, abhed, grahi, naigam. So naigam is going to be looking at differences and similarities between any concept. So that's this view, a very broad view. Past is gone, future is yet to come, but assigns those attributes to the present. So for example, when we celebrate the birth of Lord Mahavir, Mahavir Jayanti che, Mahavir is not longer existing, it's in the past. So on what basis can I say that I'm celebrating the birth of Lord Mahavir? So it's under this viewpoint, he says, yes, I am. Mahavir is not here at the moment. Mahavir is in Sichila, but Mahavir was here in the past, and on that basis of the past, I am actually celebrating Lord Mahavir's birthday. There was the particular Lord Mahavir existing in the past. So otherwise you'll say I'm celebrating Lord Mahavir. If this was a debate, so where is Lord Mahavir? Show me, where is Lord Mahavir? Says he's not here. Well, then you can't celebrate someone's birthday if he's not here. But he says, on the basis of this, that yes, the past has gone, so when we're looking at generic and specific attributes, we can encompass everything. Says on this basis, yes, we can celebrate Lord Mahavir's birthday. For example, if one of your sons or daughter is studying medicine, then તમને કોઈ પૂછે કે યુનિવર્સિટીમાં છે કે તમારા son કે daughter શું કરે છે? એ doctor છે. He's not yet become a doctor. He's in the process of studying medicine, but he'll say, yeah, you're a doctor che. So that future attribute is even coming to the present. And you're actually in a way right, because he's in the 3rd year or 4th year, the exam's just around the corner, and they're going to become a medical doctor. So on that basis, your statement is not false. Yeah, my son doctor che, my daughter is a doctor thai gai. So that statement again cannot be proved wrong under this Naigam view. Yeah?
This is similar to Vyavahar. Naigam.
Nah, we'll come to that. Because I think that's the next. If you looked at the Naigam, Sangraha, Vyavahar, we'll come to that later. That's a separate category.
Because when you say Dr. Che,
Yeah.
he's not a doctor.
Right.
He's in the process of becoming a doctor.
Right.
And therefore, when he finishes, he becomes a doctor.
Right.
So આપણે એવું જ નથી વ્યવહારમાં જ નથી.
Yeah, Glavesh, because what happens is, if you think of it even otherwise, you're starting broad and you're going to be narrowing down. So, Vyavahar could be a subset of Naigam. But let's come to that. So, for example, we see again a picture here, and you say, what is the lady doing? What's the lady doing?
Cooking.
She's cooking. That's a very common answer. But if you really look at it, she's really not cooking. She's actually lighting a fire. So the Naigam says, but we do understand she's in the process of cooking here. That statement cannot be wrong. But what can happen is, by using the concept of Nai, you cannot make a false statement true. You cannot say the lady is dancing. Because that, you cannot say, dance courage, and that statement is still true. No, so you cannot make something which is false to true under the umbrella of Nai. There has to be some merit into what statement you're saying. So it is understood that yes, she's in the process of cooking, because we know that. So he says if she's cooking. So that statement cannot be false. For example, you see a forest, we see a forest, lot of trees here. So different people can describe, what do you see here? So some people can say, I can see timber. They're actually looking at the utility of the forest. Forest માં દેખાતું નથી. અહીંયાથી તો આમાંથી actually chairs and furniture બનશે. So they're looking at the utility of the timber.
They are looking future here.
Yeah, they're looking the future. Yes. Some people could look into the past, that before this was a barren land and someone planted trees. So you could look past, present, future. So all common things, it's a very generic description.
Maybe the result of the tea plantation.
Yeah, last weekend, that's true. So that's the Naigam view. Now we look at the Sangraha view. Sangraha view is a generic or class view. What generic, the Sangraha says, we know that I just want to focus on the common attributes. I don't want to focus on the separation. So if you see a lot of people here, what would you say? Crowd of men and women. So we can say that what is standing? What is standing? People or Jeev. If you wanted to use a spiritual term, we can say Jeev. So everyone, men, women, young, old, doesn't matter. After all, they're all souls or people, as we'd say. So that's taking a common attribute. Just taking a common attribute amongst this. So combines part with the whole. So general term is used for specific. So we can just say, although there are specific people here, but we are using a general term. Okay, they're just people. So, for example, what's the practical utility of the Sangraha the Sangraha viewpoint? So, for example, one could be that there's an old car and a new car. You know what? What is the purpose of a car? Is to go from A to B. So I don't care what model the car is, what make the car is. I don't look at the differences. I'm just interested in, I want a nice reliable car which is going to take me from A to B. So that's kind of a generic view. I'm not bothered about all these viewpoints. This engine size, features. I want to look at the common attributes. What's my common? I just want to go from year to year. Again, if you now look at the trees here, I'm not looking at the utility of the trees. What do I see here? I just see a lot of trees. But some of them are oak trees or some of them are fir trees. I'm not looking at the diversity of the trees. I'm just saying what's general. My statement of saying a lot of trees is not false, because yes, I do see a lot of trees. And it's a very general view. Again here, we can say there are people standing, we can say that even including animals and trees, we can say souls are standing. So it's a very generic view, and according to Jain philosophy, we would not be wrong. Okay, there are trees here, there are animals here, humans here, then we can say they're all souls are standing. So it's a very generic view, and that statement is not false. So now we are looking at Vyavahar, distributive or practical viewpoint. So now this looks at the practical functionality, or it's very analytical in its approach. So this, in a way, can be very, very similar to the scientific viewpoint, what the basis of science. We're really analyzing different properties. What's the difference between this and this? Our bacteria, our virus, what's the difference between each one of them? So it's a very practical, very analytical approach in its looking. It focuses on particular attributes. And so if you look at different viewpoints here, Sangraha looks at the common features. It's kind of, let's group things together and just let's look at the common attributes here. Whereas Vyavahar saying, okay, we have got different things, let's look at what's different. Okay, but if you look at a crowd here, what percentage of people are young? How many people are of this particular background? So you're looking at differences rather than that. So it's really looking at, let's find out and analyze this particular year. So for example, if you went into a jeweler's shop, if now some of us men went there, they'll say, Asuje diamond che, and you'll say, it's a piece of stone. Well, it's a more expensive piece of stone, but it's there. So Sangraha is looking at a kind of a collective viewpoint. Yeah, a diamond che, whether it's a stone che, big deal. Whereas if a woman goes there to what will she say? What is the cut? What is the color? What is the clarity? What is the carat? What is the shape? And then she gets certification. So now they're looking at each of the diamond che, yeah, but and I diamond che. But what is the difference between these two pieces of diamond? And you're really looking at each of these features here. So that's actually being very, very look. And whereas Sangraha means stone, big deal. You don't care about all these different features here. So here you're going. So as you can see, આપણે જે પહેલા જોયું હતું એમાં ભેગું ને સ્પેસિફિક બધું આવી જતું હતું. But this is just focusing on just diversity. So in a way, it's a subset of the first one. In the substance was taking everything in. Let's take the group, let's take the distributive, let's take everything together. Doesn't matter. But ama, you're just focusing on just the differences. And therefore, this is also looking at, if you look at substance and modes, this is more looking at the modes. Forget all the substance properties. Different modes, what's the difference? Okay, gold is gold, I know that. But now, oh, this is a ring, oh, it says this shape here. This is a necklace, this is a earring. What's the difference between each one of that? So it's now looking at specifics and not the common properties. Looking at specific properties is Vyavahar. So in this, you can see again the same trees. You can then say, this is a treasure trove looking at the financial benefit or lungs of the earth. So you're now looking at the practical aspect. These are the lungs of the earth, trees. Or it's a treasure trove. Now we look at the Rjusutra Nai, linear viewpoint. So this considers something which is real, only those modes which exist at the moment. Past and future modes are not real. Current is real. I don't want to look at the past, I don't want to look at the future. So it does not accept differences due to the extent of time. So the factor of time, it does not look. So for example, what will we say? This is a scale, a weighing scale. But from a Rjusutra Nai viewpoint, this is only a scale at the time of weighing. At any time, it's an object. It's an object. But I can only call this a scale at the time of weighing. At this very present moment, if I'm actually weighing something, then I can call this a scale. Otherwise, it's a machine. It's a nice machine with this, that, and the other. But I cannot call it a weighing scale. So at this very present moment in time. So for example, this is a picture of a A&E doctor sleeping. So if he's sleeping, I cannot call him doctor. I can only call someone who is a doctor at the time when he's actually prescribing his surgery or he's in the hospital and he's treating. That's the only time I can call this person doctor. If this person is sleeping, from a Rjusutra Nai viewpoint, I cannot call him a doctor. Same with a teacher. If a teacher is teaching, then it's fine. If it's not, if he's at home sleeping, I cannot call him a master na kehvayane. So as you can see that when you had those philosophical viewpoints, you can then start using some of these arguments depending on which viewpoint you really want to hold. Okay, yeah. So here I can say it's a rich collection of coniferous trees, but not as timber or not financial gain, because I'll make furniture out of this. I can't, because that's in the future. What is it right now? Right now I can say it's a rich collection of coniferous trees. So now looking at the Sabda Nai, literal viewpoint, it uses words at the exact face value, signifying the real nature of things. So you're changing the gender, number, tense, word, and it changes its meaning. So for example, using the Sabda Nai, Pahad and Pahadi are two different things. Pahad means a mountain and Pahadi means a hillock. So from this, so I cannot just start calling this Pahad and this called Pahadi. So I have to really look at this viewpoint. Again in Stuti and Stotra. Devotional poem of one verse. Khamemi Savajive. So if it's just one verse, it's a Stuti or Bhaktama Stotra. Lot of verses put together, devotional poem of many verses, so that's a Stotra. Vasagram Stotra. So the words have got a specific meaning, and that's why they're attributed to that particular connotation. Again, same thing with Nard and Nadi. So Nadi is a river, and Nard means the ocean. So I cannot interchange those. So now, on this basis, what do I call this? I have to now be very careful. Do I call this woods? Do I call this forest? Do I call this wilderness? Or do I call this jungle? And for me to call any of these things, I really need to know what's the meaning of this word. What does wood mean? What does forest mean? What does wilderness mean? And what does jungle mean? And I have to be very careful in the choice of words to describe this particular group of forests. So as I said, if you look at all the slides, we're having the same forest, but on different perspectives, different nays come into the picture. So now we're coming to Sambirudha, etymological viewpoint. Etymological, I now need to know what the actual words mean. So synonymous words convey similar meanings, but etymological viewpoint accepts specific meaning of each word. This viewpoint is important from a scientific viewpoint. So for example, I cannot call this jungle, as the root for jungle means dry or desert. So that's where the jungle comes from. It's a Sanskrit word, jungle, and what that means is dry or desert. So I cannot call this jungle. If I went to Lake Turkana in north of Kenya, and if I did a safari there, which is totally dry and arid, then you can say, yeah, we did a jungle safari. But this is woods, it's not dry and it's not a desert. So I cannot actually call this jungle. If you call it woods, if I just call this woods, what about all that herbaceous fungal moss life? Beneath there must be all this moss and other vegetation, small shrubs. They are not actually woods. So I can't actually call this woods here, because if you just went inside, you'll find many other forms of vegetation. So I actually cannot call this woods. Forest, the Latin meaning for forest comes from foris, which means outdoors. But this is too general, it could even include gardens. Forest. Anything which is outdoors, it can be called as a forest. So I cannot even call this a forest, because then if I call this a forest, then what about my back garden? That could also be called a forest, because it's outdoors. So perhaps wild, meaning untamed nature, might be the most appropriate. So you now come up with after logical analysis, saying, I can only call this wild, I cannot call this any of these other words. So let's look at ascetics. Now, if you look at ascetics, there have been a number of terms which call our sadhus and sadhvis. Muni is one word. Keshi is another word. Keshi. And sadhu sadhu ne keshi kevai. Sannyasi, rishi, shraman, bhikshu. So these are all the different words which we call our sadhus. But if I now wanted to use this etymological viewpoint, then what happens is, let's look at the next. So for example, when a monk is actually seeking alms, then only can I call them bhikshu. Bhiks mageche pote. And when I'm feeding the sadhu sadhvi, that's the time I can call them a bhikshu. Otherwise I can't call the sadhu, from this Nai, I cannot call them bhikshu. Because if they are giving a talk here, then they are not actually seeking alms. This is Aratna, who recently passed away, but she did a lot of fasting. And so I can only call her tapasvi at the time when she was fasting. So that's again, so tapasvi. So based on this viewpoint, we can only call certain things at certain times when they're being used in that context. So in one way, you can say a person is going to the forest with an axe. Some passerby asks him, where are you going? He says, I'm going to make a boat. So he's going to the forest and he's saying, what are you doing? I'm actually going to make a boat. But in that process of making a boat, he's actually going to go, he's going to cut the tree, he's then actually going to prune the leaves and the trunks and everything. So there's a lot of process involved, but he's now making a very generic statement that I'm making a boat. When he's cutting the tree, someone asks him, what are you doing? And he's replying, I'm cutting the boat. He's not actually cutting the boat. He's actually cutting the wood to make a boat. But he's making a very generic statement. When he's shaving the wood, making the boat and writing on it, someone asks him, what are you doing? And he replies, I'm making a boat, shaving it and writing on it. So now you can see now he's becoming a bit more specific. So you can actually look at all these viewpoints in this context here and say which viewpoint is a statement right from which particular viewpoint. I think I'm going to be finishing the talk much earlier. So this is now coming towards the last lecture. So let's now look at a poem on self-knowledge by Khalil Gibran. He was a Lebanese poet settled in the US, and again a very profound philosopher. So what is Khalil has to say on self-knowledge? Your hearts know in silence the secrets of the days and the nights. Your hearts know in silence the secrets of the days and the nights, but your ears thirst for the sound of your heart's knowledge. You would know in words that which you have always known in thought. You would touch with your fingers the naked body of your dreams. And it is well you should. The hidden wellspring of your soul must needs rise and run murmuring to the sea, and the treasure of your infinite depths would be revealed to your eyes. But let there be no scales to weigh your unknown treasure, and seek not to the depths of your knowledge with staff or sounding line, for self is a sea boundless and measureless. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather I have found a truth. Say not, I have found the path of the soul. Say rather, I have met the soul walking upon my path. For the soul walks upon all paths. The soul walks upon a line, not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. Now, let's... So, when I read this, actually it makes what actually came to my mind by reading this. So, your hearts know in silence the secrets of the days and the nights. All knowledge is within us. Your hearts know in silence the secrets of the days and the nights. The knowledge is all within us. But your ears thirst for the sound of your heart's knowledge. And we yearn for all the knowledge. We are really seeking what is this knowledge. You would know in words that which you have always known in thought. Man, vachan. So man, vachan and prayers and mantra. So can you see, okay, you would know in words that which you always known in thought. Whatever is in our mind, we are then trying to express that through sort of speech and through prayers or even mantras. You would touch with your fingers the naked body of your dreams. Dreams can be wild, yet is it true knowledge? So you could be dreaming of something, but that really does not become true knowledge. And it is well you should. Thirst of knowledge should always be there. The hidden wellspring of your soul must needs rise and run murmuring to the sea. Our innate knowledge needs to awaken and merge with the universal truths. That's kind of, it says that the hidden wellspring of your soul, apne andar je knowledge needs to rise and run murmuring to the sea of knowledge, a vast knowledge. And the treasure of your infinite depths would be revealed to your eyes. Once when you get the knowledge of the soul, then, for example, Avdignan, Manapragnan and Kevalgnan. So, and the treasure of infinite depths will be revealed to your eyes. So, apne knowledge which we cannot see, you can almost see. Avdignan, Manapragnan, Kevalgnan. So, things which are not in front of my eyes, yet through the power of the soul, that knowledge becomes as crystal clear. It would be revealed to your eyes. This infinite depths. Generally, superficially, we cannot see this. But otherwise, it will be revealed to your eyes. But let there be no scales to weigh your unbroken treasure. I know it all. You have to remove that. We cannot really have that premise because knowledge is so infinite. We really cannot have any weighing scales to say, okay, how much knowledge I have. We really have to not have that ego of knowledge. And seek not the depths of your knowledge with the staff or sounding line. There is just no measure. Even if you wanted to describe our Tirthankars, Sagar Vera Gambira. There is no way we can describe our Tirthankars, and we can only use it through some anecdotes. They are as profound as the ocean. Their knowledge is as deep as the oceans. So that's how we sing. So we cannot use a staff or a sounding line to measure the depths of the knowledge. And then we just use them in our prayers through poetic language. You are as bright, even brighter than the brightest sun. For self is a sea boundless and measureless. Atman apne kitla bada properties ke che? Ajar, Amar, Anant. So we know that the properties of the soul, and exactly the sea, which he calls as kind of the soul, is boundless and measureless. The knowledge even of the soul. Ajar, Amar, Anant. Say not I have found the truth, but rather I have found a truth. Truth is a reality, and reality is truth. And truth is reality, and reality is truth, and is multifaceted. For example, Sikhs loko che, if you have Sikhs, what do they greet each other? Sat Sri Akal. And what does Sat Sri Akal mean? Sat means truth, Kal means time, and Akal means no time. So truth has got no time, so it means truth is eternal. So whatever is truth is eternal, like Sat Sri Akal. So essentially, so truth is reality. Anything which is, and therefore even in the scriptures, when this is described, truth, the way they describe reality, the word they use is sat. So sat apne sachu che sat. So sat and reality, so truth and reality are at the same part. Whatever is true is real, and reality is truth. So one cannot say I found the truth. There is not a single truth. I found the truth, but rather I found a truth, and this is the basis of Anekantvad. Okay, it is multifaceted. Say not, I have found the path of the soul. Say rather, I have met the soul walking upon my path. Be open-minded, non-sectarian. And I think that's, in a way, I was thinking, like, even if you look at this school year and when we teach in the adults class, we are non-sectarian. We don't take a particular viewpoint that we belong to this sect here. Wherever we get Lord Mahavir's knowledge, we are just open-minded and saying, yeah, this is what's being said. For the soul walks upon all paths. The soul can go up to the four gatis. It keeps on. The soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. Soul has no barriers. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. The petals becomes it's a very common even in Buddhist and Jain scriptures. And one of the reasons why petals are used as an analogy is because if you know a petal there, pani mahoi, gandu, if it's a very murky water and the petal is there and the petal never gets soiled because it's got a layer of oil underneath it. So no matter how dirty the water is, so therefore this analogy is कि आपला आत्मा we are all in the mundane world, but if your soul, we are trying to get towards the purity, the pure self. So in Buddhist scriptures or even in Hindu or Jain scriptures, the lotus comes, pictures of Dera Samajay, the lotus is depicted very frequently. So the soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. So I think as I was reading through this, I was trying to relate to what we have done so far. So this really is struck. So I think that really ends this topic of, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, so that's basically it. Obviously, we've been looking at the Tattvartha Sutra. These are the kind of the two main books I've been referencing, and some of the other areas which I've used to reference for this lecture notes. And these are some of the quotes. So I can leave it to some quotes, but if there's any questions, we can discuss if there's any questions over the past couple of weeks or today's lecture. Otherwise, we can go a few more minutes and then we can look at some of the quotes. No?
Can you explain a little on that Sambirudha and
Sambirudha. Evambhuta, Sambirudha. So Sambirudha essentially means that if I say something is good, better or best, every word has got a particular meaning. So it's very, very analytical. Even if you've got synonyms, two words have got a very similar meaning. I can even use this or this. But why? Why is that? What is the root? Why did that word come in? There must be a meaning to call some certain things. So I like this and this is good. So what is the difference between like and good? So then you really are going into so much more depth and it's becoming more analytical and saying this, that I have to use this word for this particular thing because of this reason here. So the practical viewpoint is that whether they're discussing philosophy or whether they're looking at science, you really need to get to the nitty-gritty point. Why exactly? And defend yourself that I am saying this because of this, this, and this. And not something else. So when people have so essentially it's etymological means you're finding the root of the root meaning. So for example, in this example, there are a lot of different terms. Tapasvi che, kesi che. Kesi essentially means kesi. Adeshar Bhagwan ne kesi ghani baar kesi, because what happened was that out of all the Tirthankars, we believe that Adeshar Bhagwan actually had long hair. So even if you look at some of the murtis, you'll see that he's actually some of these murtis have got that he's got some few hairs on his head. So ene keshi kevai, someone who's kind of got long hair. So ene keshi kevai. And if you look at even some of the Hindu sadhus, they actually got a loch. Hindu monks. So that kind of the long head one. Shraman, Bhikshu. So I mean this all Bhikshu are Bhik Magene kevai. So that essentially is looking at the root. Okay, I think it's small. Rather than asking everyone, just a few. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not a truth. Experience love and friendliness towards all by changing your perspective and not the circumstances. So I've really taken up some of these quotes here, which depicts the notion of perspective, because Naya, essentially the whole foundation of Naya is perspective. Change your thinking by changing your perspective. Fighting or running away from thoughts will not help. This is all from the Sadguru whispers. Reframe your perspective. You cannot control your circumstances, but you can control how you respond to it. Arguments cannot continue if you agree that others to have a point or accept their viewpoint. Just as you adjust your rear view mirror and not wish other cars to be driven well, check your own alignment with the divine before you ask others to change. So what happens is when you have a rear view mirror, we are not expecting others people to change. If someone is driving erratically, we are going to use your rear view mirror to we are going to change. Others can be doing all sorts of different things. So it's what saying is that you have to check out others people could be behaving erroneously or misbehaving. How can I use my perspective and rear view mirror so that I can then change rather than others? There are things I can't force, I must adjust. There are times when the greatest change needed is a change of my viewpoint. Everyone has a responsibility to not only tolerate another's point of view, but also to accept it eagerly as a challenge to your own understanding and express those challenges in terms of serving other people. So I think that's basically it. I think I'll be sending these presentations to everyone. So I think that's, if anyone's not getting the emails, then please send an email to scvplondon@gmail.com. Then we can add you to the database if you're not getting any of the lecture notes or some of these presentations. Yeah, Jai Jirendra.